Hello and welcome to CultureCast. In this episode, we will analyze the French film Tomboy. Céline Sciamma is the writer and director of Tomboy. She was born on November 12, 1980, and raised in France. She attended French film school La Femis, where she acquired her unique filmic techniques. Her work is truly a form of individual expression. She emphasizes that her perspective, and thus the product of her work, has been shaped by her own experiences. In an interview, Sciamma said, "I am a lesbian director, but I am also a woman director and a French director. If you add them all, it's okay, but separating one out is not, to be honest." Furthermore, her work is minimalist. There is a purposeful lack of dialogue and emphasis on emotion through close-up shots. This technique makes her work simply complex. It's not about the why, but about the how. In Tomboy, the focus is on how the story unfolds, but not necessarily why it unfolds that way. Her main focus is on the simplicity of expression and complexity of what happens behind it. Sciamma also focuses on pre-adolescence and adolescence in coming-of-age stories. She explores gender and sexual identity among girls. A lot of her work is based on her own growth and familiarity. Sciamma claims that she identifies with Laure because she was a tomboy when she was younger. She was often mistaken for a boy as the result of her attire, short hair, and interests. She says, "I like to think you should write about what you know, the emotions you felt strongly. Not to tell your own little story, but to find the right distance away from the cliche and to be more accurate and generous in fiction." Sciamma is known for Tomboy, Water Lilies, and Ivory Tower. And now TJ will give you a synopsis of the film.
The overall plot of the movie is about a 10-year-old girl who moves into a new neighborhood with her family. After arriving, she must live up to her new identity that she has created for herself as a young boy named Mikkel. The exposition is where we meet most of the characters in the film. In the beginning, we meet the main character Laure and her parents, as well as her younger sister Jean. We don't know much about the parents besides that the father works on his computer and the mother is pregnant and spends most of the day resting. Shortly after that, we meet Lisa, who is Mikkel's first and closest friend. Lisa introduces Mikkel to all of the neighborhood kids who they play with on a daily basis. The rising action are all of the events that lead up to the climax of the story. During this time, Laure becomes deeper involved as Mikkel, and all of the neighborhood children know her as Mikkel. At first, he is pretty shy, but as the summer progresses, he becomes more and more comfortable with his new identity. We see that he begins taking his shirt off during the soccer games and spitting just like the other boys. He also goes as far as to create a fake clay penis that he puts into his cut bathing suit to look more like a boy. The climax is the highest point of interest in the story. One day, another boy pushes Jean, and Mikkel fights the boy. Later that day, the boy's mother comes to Mikkel's and Jean's house to tell their mother what had happened, and Mikkel's mom is the first to find out what her daughter has been doing all summer. The next day, Laure and her mother go around to the boy's house and as well as Lisa's house to explain to them what Laure has been doing all summer and that she isn't actually a boy. Eventually, all the neighborhood kids find out, and when they see Laure outside, they really need to see if she's a girl or not, which makes for a very awkward encounter. The falling action is after the climax when events start to calm down. With only 2 days left until school starts, Laure does not go out to play anymore and instead chooses to stay inside. The conclusion of the film is the end of the story where everything is summed up. At the end of the film, Laure walks out onto her balcony and sees Lisa standing down below by a tree. She walks down and Lisa finally asks her, "What is your name?" And Laure responds, "Laure," and smiles, and we get the feeling that they will reform their friendship and everything will work out okay. And here's Mariana.
Thank you, TJ. The film aesthetics throughout the film were very simple since most of the film was shot with similar movements as that of a documentary. The shots were mostly done at the same height of the children, and there were plenty of close shots to convey emotion. The telephoto lens was used extensively to blur out the background and keep the audience focused on the characters' expressions. The film was very well lit. The characters portrayed little to no shadows unless there were moments of reflection. During these moments, the characters normally had a light placed on top of their figure, like when Laure was looking at herself in the mirror. The film is structured linearly, which allows a viewer to see Laure's progression as she becomes more like a boy. For example, when Laure first starts playing soccer, she begins to learn how the boys interact. She first notices that they remove their shirts and spit while they play, and when they play again, she copies them and removes her shirt and spits. There's several value judgments that Tomboy takes into account. Laure's judgment to base her decisions on her sexual orientation and not her sex. She's able to convince her friends that she was a boy simply to justify her actions. There's also a value judgment and the honesty both showcased by her mother and Mikhail, when they both must face the reality behind Laura's actions and sex. There's also a moral system where most actions are based on sex first, not sexual orientation. Finally, there's always an increasing loyalty in the family. Her parents are both loving. There's an immense love between Jean and Laura, as well as Lisa and Mikhail. The community present in the film are Laura's parents, Laura's best friend Lisa, her sister Jane, and her groups of friends from the neighborhood. Now Brooke, take it away.
Thanks, Mariana. For narrative technique, we found that for Laura, moving was her opportunity to start over and be who she wanted to be. The point of view in the film is first person and the time is linear. There are no flashbacks. No one is telling us the character's thoughts or feelings. Us, being the audience, must interpret the character's emotion while dissecting his or her actions. When discussing characterization, there are several main characters to discuss. First, Laura is a girl that is pretending to be a boy. This is the side of her that only her family truly sees when she moves. We don't know that much about the character Laura throughout the film because we only really know Mikhail. Laura seems to feel as if she is a boy trapped in a girl's body. Laura represents sex because she has a female body and is biologically a female. Mikhail is the next character. This is the boy side of Laura. Mikhail is attracted to Lisa. Mikhail likes to do quote-unquote boy activities such as wrestle, play soccer, and take care and protect his little sister. Mikhail is very shy and timid. He does not have much to say, but he does like to feel included and invited by the kids' games and their play dates. Mikhail represents gender because gender is technically used with reference to social and cultural differences rather than biological ones. Jean is Mikhail's little sister. She is a lot more girly than Mikhail. Throughout the movie, she symbolizes your typical girl, while Mikhail symbolizes your typical tomboy. Jean loves things such as dancing, singing, and drawing. She is a great little sister to Mikhail and is always looking out for her. The mother is very loving and caring. She truly and genuinely loves her kids and always has their best interests at heart. She allows her kids to be very independent because she lets them do things such as stay home alone at a very young age and take baths and play outside without any supervision. At times she seems as if she thought that Laura should act more feminine, and at other times she seems as if she thought that Laura should do what she wanted to. Lisa is Mikhail's first friend that she meets when she moves. Lisa really reaches out to Mikhail and is a great friend to her. Lisa is always looking out for Mikhail when she does things such as always include her and allowing her to win games so that the other kids will like her. Lisa has a crush on Mikhail but suspects that Mikhail is a girl because after she puts makeup on Mikhail, she says, "You look pretty as a girl." This shows how she may be unsure of Mikhail and her gender. Lisa is devastated when she finds out that Mikhail is really a girl and not the boy that she had a crush on. Although she is devastated, Lisa finds a way to forgive Mikhail and accept him. For speech, dialogue, and language, it is evident there is a lot of interaction with kids. Their conversations are very light and not serious since they are very young. The dialogue in this film was very straightforward. This movie is in French. There is also a lot of singing and reading in French throughout the film. Jean sings songs in French in the bath, and Laura reads a book to Jean in French. Now here's Allie.
Thanks, Brooke. The color pink and the image of feet were some motifs that were presented during the movie. Pink is the color of Jean's room, the color of Laura's old shoes, and the color of the keychain that Laura's mom gives to her. Mikhail shows resistance to this color by painting her new room blue, wearing new sneakers, and also replacing her mom's keychain. The film focuses on several of the characters' feet. This could be associated with sexual identification. For example, in one scene it shows Jean practicing ballet on her tiptoes, which could be associated with a typical girly girl. Another instance is when Laura uncrosses her feet after she becomes aware that they were crossed. Sitting with crossed legs is not something that a boy would naturally be doing. There are many symbols shown throughout Tomboy. The first one is the birth of the baby brother. This represents what Laura wants to be. The song in the bathtub that Jean sings about a young girl falling in love with a boy represents society's typical stereotypes. In that same scene, Laura gets out of the tub and looks in the mirror. This is the first physical proof given to the audience that shows that Laura is biologically a female. When Laura is examining herself in the mirror, it seems as if she is disgusted at her reflection. There is another scene where Laura looks in the mirror. This is before she goes swimming with her friends, when she puts Play-Doh in her underwear. She looks at her reflection with satisfaction and happiness. Later, she puts a fake penis in the box where her baby teeth are being stored. This could be seen as a symbol of saving it for later, like how she was saving her baby teeth, or it could be seen as a growth of identity, like how losing your baby teeth means you're growing new permanent adult teeth. One last symbol to address is the power of a penis. Being a boy, or using her fake penis, gives Mikhail the power to participate in activities typical of boys, such as wrestling, playing soccer, or even getting in fights. Laura seems happier being a boy and feels more comfortable with herself this way than as a girl. But power isn't a permanent thing and can be lost at any time. This is represented through the fact that she didn't actually have a penis. The loss of power or discovery of a fake penis could lead to Laurel's loss of power and ability to participate in the things that she enjoys. A literary comparison that one could make to this film is to the short poetic story called Borges and I by Jorge Luis Borges. In this story, the author uses the distinction between the persona and self through dual characters, Borges and I. He explores his dual self, analyzing how the public views him as an author versus how he feels in private. The analyzation of the dual self is also portrayed in this film by Laurel and Mikhail. The film makes the audience question who the character's true self is versus being the person that everyone else expects her to be. And here's Kristen.
Three of the main themes of the movie Tomboy were sexism, desire, and identity. From the beginning of the movie, Laura was stereotyped by the people who didn't know her as a boy. Laura got stereotyped this way because she dressed like a boy and had short hair. The idea of being a boy was more appealing to Laura than being a girl. As was seen in the movie, Laura enjoyed spending more time with her father doing manly activities, like playing cars, learning to drive, and her father even let her have a sip of his beer. Laura made her new friends believe she was someone she was not. To her family, she was a girl named Laura, but to her new friends, she was a boy named Mikhail. The tones of the movie were confused, anxious, and approving. Towards the end of the movie, Laura gets caught by her mother for her actions when pretending to be Mikhail. Laura's mother was very confused when she learned that Laura was pretending to be a boy named Mikhail to all her new friends. Laura's mother made her go tell two of the children who she really was. When Laura had to admit to Lisa that she was really a girl and not a boy, she was very anxious. You could tell she was anxious during the part of the scene because she was pacing back and forth in Lisa's kitchen, waiting for Lisa to arrive home. Lisa's not very happy when she first finds out about the stunt that Laura pulled. The last scene of the movie is Laura talking to Lisa and telling her that she is Laura, and by the look on Laura's face, it seems as if Lisa is approving of this and that the two of them can continue their friendship. Dramatic irony is displayed throughout the movie. Dramatic irony is when we, the audience, know more and are smarter than the characters. We as the audience know that Laura pretends to be a boy named Mikhail when she is around her friends, but her parents do not know this. Now here's Sonia.
In relating Tomboy to the topic of gender, it is important to consider the idea of identity. Stripping away gender, who are you really? What are your interests and the things that define you? What would you put inside the box of who you are if gender did not really exist? We can tie Tomboy into two articles we have read pertaining to gender. In Introduction, Feminist Paradigms, the feminist critics argue that all gender is performative, an imitation of a code that refers to natural substance. Thus, it states women can be just as much masculine or pretend to be such only out of obedience to cultural codes. In Tomboy, Laura is just as much masculine as the boys she hangs out with. Her biological makeup does not define her or hinder her ability to keep up with the boys. In Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema, Mulvey explains the idea of castration anxiety, in which males fear losing their penis because a penis symbolizes power. As the viewers, we experience castration anxiety for Laura during the swimming scene. A loss or discovery of the Play-Doh penis would tarnish her friends' perceptions of her, and she would lose the power she acquired in her group of friends by playing the role of Mikhail. Mulvey explains the situation as women wanting what they can't have, which in this case is a penis. Also, Mulvey describes how in traditional narrative cinema, women serve as pleasure but invoke fear and pose a danger. As males, we fix this by subordinating and taming women. An example of this idea in Tomboy is during the soccer games when the boys wouldn't let Lisa play because she's a girl. On the other hand, Tomboy empowers women. Mikhail does not allow his biological makeup or society's norms to define him. Even though Mikhail is biologically female, he has the ability to beat up the boy who teases his little sister, win against another boy in a wrestling match, and exceed everyone's expectations of his athletic abilities.